Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the red hot Mr. Andrew Hansen. How are you, Andrew? Are you done counting all your money from this past weekend?
Yeah, it was a great weekend in football. Had a lot of fun with the members. I miss NBA after a day off here on Monday with no NBA. I miss it, so I'm excited to get back on here with you and get back into the groove with NBA.
I'm fired up. I mean, it's tough now not having the games every single day. Now that we're down to 4 teams, it's going to be rough because definitely missing it. And then, we do MLB. Obviously, I provide for MLB, and this is the last week of the regular season for them too. So big changes coming here with everything going on. So, but we got it all. We're 7 days a week, as everybody knows, and we're excited to go over this slate. There are a few changes in this game with salaries that are going to change, I think, some of our strategies. So before we dive in, I want to thank our presenting sponsor. That's betus.com.pa. They are one of the most respected, if not the most respected, book in the industry. They've been around more than 25 years. I've been a member there for 13, and they are fantastic. They are taking good care of us here at Coach Talk. We have our own dedicated line to our man Jensen there at BetUS, and tremendous offer. They're 125% all the way up to $2,000 as far as your free play on your initial deposit. So check them out at betus.com.pa, or you can go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, and click on the banner that says 125% match. You got to love it. All right. The highly anticipated Game 3 here of the Denver Nuggets and the LA Lakers. I guess the storyline is, yes, Denver's a comeback kids. They've come back from 3-1 and 2 in a row. However, they've not been down 2-0. They were tied 1-1 in both of those series and then went down 3-1 and then won 3 in a row both times. So a little bit different feeling, I think, for them in this game as far as the possibility of going down 3-0. And then that definitely feels a lot more unsurmountable than 3-1. So I think Denver, puts everything on the line here. And I know I've been in the corner of stacking Lakers, specifically James and Davis, and it's paid off in the first 2 games. However, I'm going to make some changes here based on the pricing and based on the situation. If there's a game that LA relaxes just a smidgen, I think it would be this game. And Denver's going to pull out all the stops. And we've seen them in quote unquote somewhat of an elimination game like this one is, play their guys enormous minutes. So are you thinking the same way, or what is your mindset going in?
Well, that's the way I'm leaning. I am a little bit concerned about Denver here with the way that they lost Game 2. I mean, that was a dagger.
Brutal.
It was a gut punch for AD to hit that 3, because they had Game 2 right there. I mean, it was, they were thinking, all right, it's tied up at 1. By the way, when Murray had that ball in the corner, I mean, if he just throws it up in the air, or if he's able to save it to Millsap, I mean, that was like inches away from the buzzer going off and it actually being tied 1-1 and AD never getting that shot. So they've just got to, like I said, it's such a gut punch. So, they are going to have to dig deep, all the way to get back in there and stay in this one. So it does make sense with all the comebacks they've had so far that they'll be able to do it again. But this is maybe as big of a challenge as any.
I agree 100%. I mean, I felt from the beginning of this, and I made it, real well known on our podcast here. I was a little frosty about it, calling LA sweep. You know that they're going to do it if Barkley's even guaranteeing stuff. Did you see him on there sweeping the floor on TNT?
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah, he had the broom out sweeping for like 5 minutes. So, but, I still feel the Lakers are going to sweep this. And I agree with you. I mean, that was a hellacious way to lose. I mean, just got to take all the steam out of you. But I just think the Lakers are better. I think they'll sweep. But, I do think Denver is going to get more opportunity for their main big, dudes in Jokic and Murray specifically, just because of the situation. And, they're smart enough to know, whether they're comeback kids or not, that 3-0 down to the Lakers, wearing the Mamba jerseys and all of this momentum, and they're rested. Whew, good luck with that,
Yeah. And so, as we start to look at how we're going to translate that into building lineups, I do agree it makes sense to project the possibility that the Lakers let their foot off the gas just a little bit, relax just a little bit. And Denver, if they really come out strong, maybe they'll be able to either win it or keep it close. And as you said, I do think the Denver guys will play huge minutes. So I am also looking at Jokic and Murray, or at least one of them with not both of the other guys for the Lakers, not AD and LeBron. And one thought I'm having is, don't you think it's been kind of a long time since we've had an Anthony Davis situation where he gets like scratched on his his socks and he goes to the locker room for like 15 minutes? I mean, we haven't had anything like that in quite a while.
Well, this last game, I stood up right on the podcast. It was the first time he wasn't on the injury report forever.
Right.
So yeah, it is pretty bizarre. There's no doubt that he could snag a nail and have to head for a quick filing into the locker room.
Yeah.
We don't know, but
yeah.
Now we say that, and the guy just stuck a eye hole three. God, what a shot that was!
Oh, it's tremendous. He's an amazing player.
Woo.
But that's the other part of it, is psychologically, he's got to feel great after that amazing performance, that huge shot, probably the biggest shot of his career. He might just sort of take it easy a little bit and say, all right, I'm feeling good. I'll just cruise along here. That was the big moment I needed. I don't need to, prove anything today after that game. So he might also just step back naturally a little bit. And, both of those reasons together, I'm sort of thinking about ways to fade him.
I'll tell you though, man, nobody really talks about it because he's never been on a real winner or a playoff deep run, in his career. So, this is all new territory for him. And I think if anybody has a chip on his shoulder, it's him. Because I think that people, started saying, well, he's not good enough to carry his team to a deep playoff run. And let's face it, guys like LeBron, that first year he went to the playoffs was with some terrible players. I mean,
right.
There's guys on that team that weren't even in the league for very long. So I think he's heard those rumblings. I think he's playing more of a purpose than anybody. And from a DFS standpoint, it's funny when you're watching games, the guys that just scratch and claw for your DFS points, you just endear to them. Like, he will push his own guy out of the way for the ball. And, he didn't used to play like that all the time. He would at times, but now he's just like, if he doesn't get a shot like 3 times down the floor, he's clearing everybody out and screaming for the ball. And you got to love that from the DFS side. He is extremely hungry and has been super impressive. The guy that I keep trying to talk myself into fading is LeBron, which is really rough to do. I mean, he's LeBron, for God's sake. So, but you can't roster everybody in this salary world. No. So you got to figure out how you want to do it. All right, we've setting the stage here. So let's go to the betus.com.pa live odds here. And as of right now, we have the Lakers only 6.5 point favorite, so it's down a little bit. Over under still around 214. It's been in that neighborhood every game. So very interesting. I guess we got to start building this at some point. We can only stall for so long.
Well, Well, let me take the reins on DraftKings because I've got some thoughts on the captain spot over there.
Okay.
Looking at those four studs, there's enough of a price difference for Murray where my primary build so far, I've got him as my captain. You can save just enough money where if you want, you can still get two of the other three studs.
Okay.
And then you can start to look at your mid-tier guys and your value guys that you want to get in there. So that's the way I'm starting. Still playing around with it. In terms of some of the other guys on Denver, let me break down their side first.
Okay.
There's been a couple different changes in terms of the minutes and who's playing when. Porter and the way that they look. I think Porter looked really aggressive in game 2. I liked how he looked the first time he got on the court in the first half. He started shooting good shots and scoring. I mean, he shot 6 for 9 on the game. Finished with 15 points, 4 rebounds. He only played 20 minutes. So, again, Malone is just not turning to him quite enough for offense.
No.
But, another thing I saw that I liked was it looked like Murray was looking for him a little bit more. I think part of the reason Porter was complaining in the last series is because sometimes Murray and Jokic just play the two-man game and they really don't look his way in the corner. He just stands in the corner, doesn't touch it. They play two-man ball, and he got frustrated. But in this last game, there was that one possession where coming up in the fast break, Murray hit him in stride, kind of the most basic play in pickup basketball, push it up the wing, and the guy shoots a 3. But Murray and Porter usually don't connect on those plays, but they did in game 2, and it just jumped out at me. If they're going to look to him more while he's out there, then that's a big boon for him. So, Porter he's in the mix for me. I think they got to get more scoring. Okay. And then there's one other guy that there was a change with that you and I both noticed. So let's get into PJ Dozier here because he's the value play that I think is really interesting. Based on those changed circumstances where he played down the stretch, he played big minutes. Gary Harris wasn't on the court. It was PJ Dozier, running the point. Murray was off the ball, and he can do a lot on both ends. He's long enough to defend guys, rebounds, blocks, steals. He's quick. He can score. He's aggressive, and he's only 1,400 on DraftKings and 6,500 on FanDuel. So I'm looking to get him in the lineup. What are your thoughts on him?
I think he's just an absolute no-brainer for GPPs. I don't know if I can pull the trigger in cash yet. I want to at that price because he barely has to get any points to get value for you at 1,400. I mean, it's ridiculous. But, he's played in the last 2 games. 2 games ago, 12 minutes. And even though he was the center of attention in this last game, he only played 14 minutes.
Right.
So, that's a huge red flag for me. Now, Malone has a tendency to roll with, who's hot or who the guy is that can make it. And I think he could get 15 to 18 minutes in this game. I really think he will. And at 1,400, I think you got to play him because it allows the entire build. I have a DraftKings lineup built right now with him in it, which I may use in cash. I'm hesitant. I got to make a final decision, but I don't have the other 5 guys are good. And it's with Anthony Davis as my captain. Yeah. So, when you can play guys and make it happen like that, maybe it's a gift that they just haven't adjusted the pricing and he could get 15 to 18 minutes. Now on the negative side, he's probably going to be highly owned and not really deservedly so with the amount of minutes he's played. And he could get 8 to 10 minutes and get you 5 or 6 fantasy points at 40% ownership. And then, it can be an edge that you can play the other direction. But, I think right now, if I was forced to push the button to enter, I would have him as my last man in to make those other 5 guys work. And I still want to use AD as my captain. This is the 3rd time in a row, but like I mentioned earlier, I just see him playing with a so much different of a purpose than I've ever seen him play before. And, I mean, he got slated on Defensive Player of the Year. I still think he should have got it. I mean, he's second banana to LeBron. He's not won anything in his career thus far. I mean, everything's playing his way, and he hasn't been hurt. I mean, we complain because he is hurt all the time, and we do, everybody calls him a big baby, but obviously he's got to be having some of these injuries or he wouldn't be sitting, and now he has none of them. So that's the other huge plus is, he's going to play those big minutes. He's going to play a good chunk at center. And, I want to start my lineup with AD again.
That'll be the test, is if he can do it 3 in a row for you. Certainly could happen. But it is fun to play around with. And, the thing with Dozier is, as you said, those final 2 other guys you get in your lineup, you don't have to cringe quite as much. They're guys definitely that are actually attractive. And, as we flip over to the Lakers side, I want to mention one of the value plays over there, and it's Caruso. And I think he's still
what a game he had. Oh, my
yeah, he's
goodness.
The other guy who looked great, aggressive on both ends. He did miss that 3 for the game winner before AD hit his, but just a real strong floor game for him. Last 2 games he's had 22 and then 29 minutes, and he's only 3,600 on DraftKings. And still reasonable on FanDuel at 8,000.
He's probably a much better play than Dozier, but he's $2,200 more on DraftKings. So, you got to weigh that out. I mean, he's getting minutes. And I was down on Caruso for this series because I figured Rondo was just going to take all that usage. But they're still using them. But they're using both of them. They're both huge parts of this run that they're on. So, the thing with Rondo though is they've gone bonkers with his pricing. They've overreacted and basically priced him right out of even being an option, in my opinion. So, that makes it tough. But I want to mention on FanDuel, Caruso's 8,000 and Dozier's 6,500. So it's $1,500 difference there, but it's not as impactful. Nearly as impactful as on DraftKings.
Right.
So for me, in a cash lineup, I would much rather go Caruso over Dozier on FanDuel, and still a slight lean to Dozier over Caruso on DraftKings. And I do think Caruso being, that big dunk and everybody, all the attention, people are going to be wanting to put him in there as well. So you hate to play the sweetheart guys that everybody's just going to jump on now. Everybody's going to want to put Dozier and Caruso in like they did Howard after game 1 and all that other stuff. So I'll tell you, I get it, but we've seen it a million times over. If you chase the foolish money, sometimes it doesn't pay off. You gotta have some balance. So the only recommendation I would have is don't play both guys and take 2 shots like that in cash games for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense in cash. So how about the bench guys for the Lakers? What are your thoughts on Kuzma and Howard? Howard, his production went down a little bit there in game 2, but his minutes weren't down that much. I mean, it was something like 16 down to about 12. He just didn't have the splash plays. But Kuzma or Howard, either of those guys interest you?
I'm not. I was on Kuzma a little bit the last game, and I just, he's so bland out there. He's just not one of the first options, and his price at 5,200, just a little too high for me. And even on FanDuel, I just think his name, he's 10,000 on FanDuel. Right. It's crazy. Yeah. So I'm just not going to go there. Now, Howard, I think, is reasonable play at that price. The problem is I had to take an extra blood pressure pill watching that game because he doesn't get in until halfway through the second quarter.
Right.
And they're not going to change the rotation. It's going to be, McGee starting. Then you got the end of the first and the first half of the second quarter. They're going to have AD at center. and then he'll come tramping in there 6.5 minutes in the half, and you're like, he's got to go nuts to get to your numbers. So, I mean, I understand that play as well, and I prefer him over like a Kuzma or Gary Harris. I just guys like that, but I don't know if I have the courage to sit there until midway through the second quarter to see my guy get in there when you're only rostering 6 people.
Yeah, and back to Kuzma, I can't believe the pricing on FanDuel. The fact that he's more expensive than Porter Jr. over there
makes no sense.
On DraftKings, it's in that price where you could consider it for a GPP, but he's more expensive than KCP. He's more expensive than Danny Green, and those guys have been playing much better. Bigger minutes.
Much better. And he never gets more than mid-20s. I mean, you look 21, 24, 27, 22, 20. I mean, and he's just, again, they're not running plays for him. He's not a top option. Look at his DFS points. Last game, we thought he was going to step up, 11.25, 16 before that. 4 games ago, he plays 22 minutes. He gets 8 fantasy points. I mean, that's not a guy that's taken advantage of the situation. I mean, let's face it, I think he's a little overrated, period. I think his name, everybody expected him to be a star because when they were so horrendous before they had LeBron and Davis, they didn't have anybody else. It was him and, 125-pound Brandon Ingram, like as a rookie. They didn't have anybody else to score. So I think that, expectation has just stayed with him. And for some reason in fantasy, he's consistently overpriced.
Yeah, he is. So bottom line here is we're going to have to play with these lineups to figure out where Dozier fits, who our captain's going to be, and how it's all going to shake out. I'm looking forward to finalizing those lineups for our members.
I think I'm going to give more info than I normally do.
Okay.
Just to share my thoughts with everybody here in my build, because this isn't slighting our members or anybody because I haven't finalized my lineup, but I'd like to share sort of the 2 ways I'm looking at this. And also I want to get your opinion too.
Okay.
So I'm not saying this is what I'm playing because it's definitely not the final deal, but let me give you this and tell me what you think. If you do want to play Davis at captain like I do, you can still fit in Murray and the Joker if you go with the cheap plays such as Dwight Howard, PJ Dozier, Jeremy Grant. That would get you to 0. So I'm not saying that's my lineup. I'm not giving a full lineup on DraftKings. We never do that. But I just wanted to give the guys and the thoughts, because whether you finish that lineup with Howard and Grant or you use Caldwell Pope, Danny Green, you can use Caruso. A lot of people will use him in one of those 3 spots. But my point in bringing those names up is they all fit under that salary if you use Davis, Murray, and Jokic. So I think there's 2 strategies to approach this slate. Strong with 3 out of the 4 best players, whether it's Davis, Murray, and Jokic, or if LeBron's in for one of those guys. If you use those 3 and then find the 3 most value guys that you can to make your roster fit. Or the second option, and that's what I wanted to mention to you, is if I use Davis and use the Joker, but not play Murray, that opens the door to all of the other 4 guys being made more up of the Porter Juniors, Rondos, and those kind of guys. So there's 2 approaches that I'm thinking. I want to get your feel on which one you think is stronger. Now, cash-wise, it's probably smarter to go with 2 and then build stronger 4. But I don't know. What do you think?
GPPs, I'm leaning more towards the 3 studs.
Okay.
On both sites. I think there's enough value because of Dozier, especially the guy that I'm looking at is the GPP guy to make everything else work. I think the 3-stud approach is best from my perspective, because it's just somehow the way it works out with the changes in pricing, that you can fill out your roster with guys that you're even somewhat excited about. And, some of these, to get multiple mid-tier guys, they just haven't been doing it. I mean, guys like Harris, Millsap, Grant, I mean, none of them are going for 30 fantasy points.
No.
So why pay up for those guys to get 20 if you can pay down to the other guys and get 20?
I mean, the bottom line is we have two teams here that have two dominant players that get 75% of their DFS points. So it's impossible to roster all four, but if now that value's opened up enough to not have three of the four, seems like it might be a mistake. I think you may need three out of the four and not be able to wait. What I've gotten away with thus far is being able to put Davis and LeBron in and then build a team around them, and it's worked out okay. No huge takedowns, but it's worked out okay. But now it just seems like, I mean, if you remember the Denver game against Utah, where he did not sub out the Joker or Murray for 1 second of the second half. I don't know if that's not possible in this game. So, I think you gotta go there, because I agree with you. Unless somehow Porter has a big breakout game, I don't think there's anybody else capable offensively of I mean, let's just look at it. I mean, it's not going to be Millsap. He's, to a certain extent, he's, Gary Harris, Monte Morris, Torrey Craig, Mason Plumlee. I mean, these guys are limited. And so, if they're going to be in this game, it's got to basically be Murray and Jokic, unless you think Porter is going to get the opportunity that he hasn't had thus far in the playoffs. I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, the Denver guys, they're more role players now, and I think it's going to be accentuated even more in this game. It's going to be Murray. It's going to be Jokic. The role guys are going to play their roles, play defense, run the floor, shoot the occasional three. But I don't see them spiking for 35 fantasy points unless it's Porter getting more of an opportunity and having a big game.
I'm with you. But, the risk being, and, the last thing I'll say on this was, if you do roster those three guys and you do pick a couple of value guys, if Howard only plays 12 minutes again and just gets in there to agitate, the Joker and gets 10, and PJ Dozier plays 8 minutes and gets 4, you're dead. Yeah. So, you got to look at it from both sides here. There's a lot of risk, a lot of reward. It really does shape up as a fine GPP entries. But, man, for cash players like myself that want to bang heads, for big bucks head to head, it really makes you sweat here, because you don't want to, get a blank in there.
Yeah. I think you'll have it sorted out by tip-off.
I hope so. I'll tell you, if you want to catch all of our thoughts tomorrow as we figure this out, you can catch us throughout the day on Twitter. We're all at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Mr. Hansen here is at Language Olympic, and our man Sugar Shane is at DET Sports Shane. And real quickly here, before we finish up and sort of bring all this together, let's hear real quickly from our presenting sponsor, BetUS.
Wake up, sports bettors. You think you have the winner? Well, don't you think it's time to put your money where your mouth is and make some cash? Well, put down the beer and head to BetUS.com for a 125% bonus, putting you ahead instantly. You'll make each sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line. Earn bragging rights over all your friends as you rake in the cash from each week's betting action. But don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sportsbook with over 25 trusted years in the industry. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity, but more importantly, you need a sportsbook that pays. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, and basketball matchups, MMA, golf, horse racing, and even esports. No other sportsbook is as welcoming to newcomers as BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Sign up today with promo code CoachTalk to enjoy a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000, the best in the biz. Create an account to start making bets against the spread, future bets, prop bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook in the industry is as committed to their users as BetUS. Sign up now and get on the winning side of the ball.
All right, we're excited. The partnership with BetUS is awesome. Check those guys out. You cannot beat them. All right, so we're to the point here where we got to wrap it up and prepare for how we're going to attack this tomorrow. We know the lines. There's no major injuries. We know what the rotations are pretty much going to be. It's just a matter of making some tough decisions here. And I like the Lakers in this game. I don't think it's going to blow out for the reasons we said. And it just makes me want to play the guys that are guaranteed the big minutes for sure.
Yep, I agree.
All right. We want to thank betus.com.pa. We want to remind you, and we'll have Andrew, if you don't mind, because we're still in September. We have another week and a half of this month. Football's just 2 weeks in, but we do have an awesome fall special that Andrew is got this sucker down pat. So go for it.
Yeah, jump in as a member with the fall special if you'd like. That'll take you through the end of the calendar year to give you a nice discount on our monthly membership, and it gives you access to all of our sports. In fact, all of our memberships do. That way, that's what makes us a little bit unique. Whatever length of time you choose, week, month, year, or the fall special, you get all of our sports, every slate, and then we give out full FanDuel lineups. We give a cash lineup, a GPP lineup, and on DraftKings, we give the coach's clipboard with some core plays and some pivots so you can fill out your lineup. And for the NFL folks out there, our core plays on DraftKings this week, all of them were fire symbols. So it worked out great for our members. We had some takedowns, a lot of happy folks, which makes us happy as part of the DFS Coach Talk team. So we'd love to have you jump in and try it. Just go to dfscoachtalk.com and grab one of our memberships.
And to add to what Andrew's saying, we cover 4 sports. We want to be the best of the best in the NBA, the NFL, PGA, and Major League Baseball. And we cashed in all 4 this weekend. We actually hammered some good PGA US Open stuff, which was awesome. The guys did a terrific job with football, Andrew and Shane. So shout out to them. And then we were able to really do some damage in an MLB slate this weekend. And also this past evening, we had a little Giants mini stack that came through for us, top 5% lineup there in MLB. So, this is a perfect time to jump in. We have 7-day-a-week NBA podcast if there's games. Now we may not have it every day if there's not a game, but we've got how many NFL podcasts per week now?
3.
3. So we got three there, and then we've got our PGA Wednesday where we set up the entire tournament as well. So catch us on any of those. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, this is the most important thing I'll ask you on this podcast. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and click the little alarm on the right-hand side there. That will give you an alert every time one of our podcasts posts. And we've got our folks, Brett and Bryce, behind the scenes, editing and posting these at all hours of the night. So, if you're a night owl or a third shift, or you're up in the morning early and you want to catch it, the best way to know that it's a new one and that it's up is if you subscribe here on YouTube. You can also listen everywhere podcasts are heard. We're on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, you name it, we're on all of them. And we also have a contest. There's only 8 more days. We give a month free membership if you give us a 5-star and a nice little review, just a couple words even on iTunes, or you give us a a thumbs up, good review on Spotify as well. Either one would qualify you. So that is it. Our charity of choice here is always mambaon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. We love that. It's a tremendous charity set up by the Bryant family. So that is it, my friend. Any final words? Hopefully we gave people a really good base to look at here. Follow us on Twitter, jump in Discord, and we'll finalize some rosters for you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in and for your support.
Fantastic. All right. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great Tuesday. And we will be with you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.